Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 516 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we've got some breaking news that just was announced within the last hour. Had to change the title on YouTube, so if you're watching on any of the other platforms, unfortunately, I was not able to update those titles, but it has now been confirmed that the Acolyte has been canceled. That is correct. The Acolyte has officially been canceled on Disney+. This, of course, is not a surprise whatsoever because the show was complete and utter garbage. Most of what Disney Plus has been putting out recently has, of course, also been just awful, and so none of us are surprised by it, but something tells me that I would not be surprised if people like Leslie Headland and the actors and other people involved with the show might actually think that it is quite surprising for them, because remember, they were told that everything was great. Everything was fine. The show was phenomenal. The ratings were amazing. And of course, no one with an actual brain and could actually put a thought together believed any of those ideas at all. And so, again, let's just say a lot of vindication, to say the very least. And so that's why that has officially been added to the title of things we'll talk about. Acolyte, of course, officially is canceled. Has officially been canceled. And we'll go ahead and actually be sure to put this up for everybody, just that way everyone knows it's been confirmed. There it is right there from Deadline. Right, we have this article from Deadline making it very clear from Nelly Adriva. Acolyte canceled, no Season 2 for Disney Plus Star Wars series. What I also love is that even in this announcement of the show being canceled, it tries to do a bit of protection, right? It tries to do a little bit of a protective game here. As you can see, it says, the story of the Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with the second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amandla Stenberg, sources tell Deadline. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8-episode first season of the series from creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner Leslie Headland wrapped its run on Disney+. Yeah, please continue to remind everybody that she is the primary reason as to why this show will not continue. The news is not entirely surprising. Oh, really? The Acolyte did okay with critics, 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, but divided Star Wars fans, which was reflected in its overall viewership. And again, this is the kind of nonsense that the people like with the likes over on Deadline will try to push, right? This is the narrative that they will try to always push, saying, "Oh, you did okay with critics." You know, if this was a show that had gotten renewed, they would have said instead, "Oh no, this show did great and a solid show with critics with 78% positive score." I believe that 78% positive score is actually still, according to their site, certified fresh, in fact. So it's interesting, right? That you have this narrative being pushed that because it's gotten canceled, it's just okay. But up until this point, up until this cancellation, they were like, oh man, I don't know why these audience, I mean, obviously it's clearly bot accounts. It's obviously clearly just fake news, right? It's just, it's a targeted attack against the show, right? It's a bunch of ists and phobes out there going after the show for no good reason. By the way, of the 78% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, yeah, that's out of maybe the 15 critics that actually watched the series all the way through. Remember that what Rotten Tomatoes does is that they count every individual review for every single episode as a review for the entire show. And what I mean by that is that if you just go to the Acolyte, it'll tell you, 100 plus reviews. However, that's just total reviews. So that means if you had 15 people reviewing every single episode over the course of the season, they've just added up every individual 15 reviews for each episode. So this is the kind of nonsense that they obviously like to push. It says, driven by interest into the venerable franchise, the Acolyte got off to a strong start. Even that was not true when it launched June 4th with 2 episodes, generating 4.8 million views in its first day on the streamer to rank as the biggest series premiere on Disney Plus this year. And again, that is the metric they want to continue to remind you of. Oh, it's the biggest release this year for Disney Plus. Yes, that's right. When this show came out in June, what else had come out on Disney Plus? I think Echo was the only other show that may have gotten a release that had any, quote, recognition as far as IP, or at least being adjacent to more recognizable IPs. So really not that much of a stat, right? Really not that much of a feat for it to have accomplished, right? And we've also talked about how, in their opinion, right, the way that Disney, and this is from Disney herself, right? Disney has said the way that they count views is they say, all right, let's say 100 people watch 1 minute of the show. Okay, let's say that the show itself is maybe 20, 25 minutes, then that's going to be the equivalent of having X amount of views, right? So it's all about how much runtime the show actually is. They take the total runtime, so 4.8 million views for those first 2 episodes. You then divide that by ultimately, 45 minutes-ish? And again, it's so hard to do the math on this because their episodes are so short in actual length and the actual runtime without counting the beginning, the intro sequence, and then the end credits, which are insanely long. So it really becomes that much less impressive when you actually do the math, when you actually break it down in that way. But this is the kinds of things that they like to run on. It says the tally rose to 11.1 million views globally after 5 days of streaming. Yeah, compare that just to the week premiere, or even just the, actually, no, sorry. Compare that to the single day, 24, 48 hour views for a show like House of Dragon Season 1. I mean, it's like night and day. That's abysmal. That's abysmal for them to say that. It goes on, corroborating Disney's data, oh sure, the series made its debut on Nielsen's top 10 original charts in its premiere week at number 7, 488 million minutes viewed, climbing to number 6 the following week. Yeah, I thought again, for some reason, I remember Nielsen didn't even come up except until like more recently. And again, this is the kind of stuff that they will run with. Acolyte could not sustain the momentum, dropping out of the top 10 in week 3 and staying off before returning after the release of the finale at number 10, 335 million minutes, believed to be the lowest for a Star Wars series finale. Yeah, that's right. I remember when that news came out, that this was actually a lower number, and not even just for a Star Wars series. I believe the number that came in, the finale number for this, came in underneath. Was it underneath She-Hulk or was it underneath Miss Marvel? In either case, whether it be one or the other, that is abysmal. Because no one watched those shows, and clearly no one watched this show, and therefore, good riddance to the Acolyte, good riddance to Leslie Headland's run in the Star Wars universe, and no one shed a tear. Except for, of course, the activists that were the only ones actually watching and promoting the show, of course. All right, let's head back into the chat. Had to get that bit of breaking news out of the way first and foremost, but let's say hello to the people. We got Bruce hanging out since 7. Hail to you, good sir. Matt R. hanging out. What's going on? Thanatos Felicitas. Hello from the past, indeed. You are hanging out in the past right now. Rage Grifter, your chat has nearly 4,000 comments. Looks like you have comments from someone else's video. I have no idea what you're talking about, Rage Grifter, because it doesn't exist. You're the only one that's mentioned it, and I double-checked. Those are not real. So I don't know what's going on your end. Carl Jacobs, what's going on? JS Pena, tag to say ahoy, ahoy to you. And again, if you have a comment or question, just put at Odin at the very beginning of your comment, at Odin. Let me know you're trying to get my attention. And if you are a member of the channel, you do not have to worry about putting the at Odin. And of course, super chats, donations are of course also appreciated. We got Churchboy0487, welcome. GMucky76, hail to you. Thank you very much for being here. We got Prince Screen. Hail to you. Thank you for being here, Prince Screen. Thanks for being a member here on the channel as well. Mr. Wingster is here again. I'm here before Snonopoopus. My life is complete. Boom. There it is. Joey Horn is a member. Hello, Odin. What's up, chat? What is going on? Hail to you. Orange chat. Well, at least I can be around to discuss Alien Romulus. I had to find my friend Captain Jack to help watch it. I liked it, warts and all. Well, very sad to hear he had to go that route, good sir, because it was a solid time in the theater, dude. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna have the typical take that a lot of people in the fandom, a lot of people in the fellowship have been having towards that movie, because I actually, as far as my experience is concerned, had a darn good time. Definitely experience I would recommend having in an actual theater. I saw it in IMAX, and I think that actually even helped more, because I am completely in agreement that the narrative structure of the film, the story, is where the weakest parts are. No shadow of a doubt, like no doubt about that whatsoever. I'm also very clear that the CGI elements in the movie, when they come in, because most of it's practical effects, thankfully, but the CG element of a specific CG character, deepfake type technology, awful. Like some of the worst I've ever seen. So I can be honest about those moments, but at the same time, I can't deny the movie was a ton of fun. It was a lot of fun at the theater. By the way, since we're very early on in the stream, I also wanted to give a huge congratulations to the Force of Light Entertainment ladies, who are usually streaming around this time. They might still be streaming. I try not to stream over them if I can, and I know that they were celebrating 40,000 subscribers on their channel, so congratulations to them. It's amazing how much they have grown and how much further past they've flown past me, in fact. So great to have them doing so well. Keely Chow, what's going on, Keely? Also asks, how are you? Thor, Freya, and Baby Sif doing okay. Stream almost got started a little bit later because Baby Thor has been having some issues with his sleep at night. And so he's also in that state where he's potty trained essentially, but he also just... It's hard to say, right? He, before going to bed, tried going poop. He didn't have to go poop. And then all of a sudden, he's a good 10, 15 minutes in bed. And then he's calling out for me saying that he has to poop. And so it's like, okay. So luckily, the Lady Freya, shout out to Lady Freya, was able to come take over for that so that I could literally sit down to click the intro. So here we are. Bad news C, what is going on? Hanging out over on the Green Machine. Hail to you. Also, it's actually not a new starting screen. It's been around for quite a while at this point. Where have you been is the real question. Glad to have you here. Still, bad news. Mr. Winkster is a member saying, I don't need Romulus. I got the first 2 Alien and Predator movies to keep me company. Maybe put in Resurrection for a laugh if I need one. And again, I respect that position for sure. I am definitely of the mindset that the first 2 films are the only ones actually worth checking out. That being said, still had a lot of fun with Romulus as well. 2 things can be true at once. Matt R saying hello. Forever Sci-Fi is a member. Hail to you. Forever Sci-Fi. We got Ambrose Chamberpot. Hail to you. Thank you very much. Mr. Winkster talking to Church Boy there. Lee Mitchell. Hail to you. What's going on? Kimberly G, who's a member. Howdy, everybody. Howdy to you. Kimberly G. Killian Shadow Cat. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Want to get into this super chat real quick. Mr. Winkster, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. Very generous of you, good sir. Thank you. I can gently tap the fourth wall too. The proposal. Great line. Yes. In fact, that was probably one of my wife's favorite lines in the movie. So much so, and hey, here you go. As far as the power of Ryan Reynolds and his influence on people's minds, within 2 or 3 days, she was watching The Proposal. So my wife definitely picked that one up. Think Noodles, bro, did you not see the title of the stream? It literally has Acolyte is canceled, at least on the YouTube side. I was able to update that comment at the very least, that title at the very least. All right, we got Nearsighted Cyclops hanging out. What's going on? Good sir, Mr. Winkster, Acolyte. Never heard of her. No one really has. Killy Chow, in my Daniel Bryan voice. Yes, absolutely. Morak, happy Acolyte cancellation day indeed. Bad news, tagging to say soup. Well, thank you very much for that. Wayward Noodle, hail chat, hail to you, Wayward Noodle. Thank you very much for being here. Justin C. Time to say, hail. How big of a drop-off do you expect Alien Romulus will have in its second weekend? I don't honestly think it's going to have that much of a drop-off, dude. The adjustment actually came in for this weekend, and the box office, the domestic box office for Romulus came in higher than the initial projections, okay? So the film is doing well financially. So it was initially projected at 41.5. It came in actually at 42. So again, not a huge increase there, but that's still... a lot more tickets. It's still a lot more tickets versus what was initially estimated. So no, it's doing very well. 110 actually. So you see that full adjustment there. $110 million in its opening. And remember, most films on average, if this film has an average run, okay, and right now it's doing above average as far as what the initial projections were going into it, and then where it actually ended up, it's on the higher end there. And so if that's any indication, and it's not always a clear indication that that is going to be the case, but if it is, then we're talking about it being able to get upwards of $300 to $400+ million at the global box office. because most films are able to do about a third of their entire box office run in their global opening. So that's right now what we are looking at for this movie. But no, again, it's doing a lot better than I think some people want to admit. Again, I'll go ahead and pull that number up just so that way we can see it and talk about it right now. As you can see, right, Alien Romulus, $110 million worldwide, 42 domestic, $68 million international. And then we just go back to the weekend estimates there. As you can see, right, 42 million. Again, that's higher than the 41.5. I've actually also updated this. Now, it is still true, as well as this movie's doing. Remember, when we say a film is doing well, okay, there's a couple of factors. One, it's doing well in comparison to the projections. So projections going into it were on the lower end. It came in on the higher end, or it came in better than expected. That's one way that we understand those numbers. And then the other is in comparison to its budget. So for an $80 million budgeted movie to make $110 million globally in your opening, and for that to be on the higher end of your projections, that's why we're talking about it being good. Okay? Because going into the weekend, the initial projections globally were around 95 million, and it ended up doing 110. So not an insane amount more, but percentage-wise, that's sizable enough to say that it's on that upward trend as far as just total performance is concerned. So yeah, I think Alien Romulus is probably going to have a pretty good hold. The word of mouth on the film seems to be pretty good. And I know that people will go out there saying, yeah, but what about Gary? And what about the rest of the people in the Fellowship that are just tearing this film apart? Again, Chris Gore, amongst so many others. And look, these are coming from, I would describe them as just those hardcore Aliens fans who even themselves will admit there's only 2 Aliens movies, right? Just as we've already seen someone, in the stream mention themselves, right? So if you're already coming from that position, okay, you're not really representing the people then going to see this movie, because a lot of people that are of that same mindset probably did not even give this film a chance and were maybe waiting on someone like a Gary or someone like a Chris Gore to be able to actually go. But there's a lot more people that enjoy these films much more on a subjective basis than anything else that have been enjoying it. So for instance, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Even with the really bad elements that are absolutely there, it is still a darn good time at the theater. And I know that John Flickinger just put out his own thoughts about the movie too, and I know that he had a lot of fun, and he's a pretty big fan of that franchise. And again, I would call myself a fan as well. Now, I would not say I'm a mega fan, okay? But I really like Alien, really like Aliens. And then I've seen maybe the other ones once or twice. They definitely got a little bit too weird for me and for my taste. I also tend to not watch a lot of horror films in general, which is why I really like Aliens the most out of the entirety of the franchise, because it is a great action film. Right? That debate actually came up on FNT this past week, and really it's impossible to really choose between the two because they are so different in their approach to filmmaking. Because you have, on the one hand, with Alien, a clear horror film, whereas on the second film, Aliens, you have a clear action film. So it's really hard to say which one's better because it depends on, okay, which genre do you value more? Which genre do you enjoy more? For me, I enjoy action over horror, therefore I prefer Aliens. Anyway, let's get back into the chat. Let's see. Print screen. Tag and say, the Acolyte's been canceled. Wait a second. That's the Acolyte. Oh, sorry. What's the Acolyte? Yeah, exactly. And everyone else was saying the same thing. And you already knew things were bad because they tried to do that whole AstroTurf movement, right? There was, I think it was Leslie Headland or it was someone else involved with the series who said, we got to get this trending, right? We had, our show did really well. That was what was funny about that too. It's like, our show did really, really well. Our show did amazing, okay? Our show was groundbreaking in so many ways, but we really need y'all's help on social media to get this hashtag going so that way the show can get renewed. It's like, wait a minute, if your show is that successful and was that popular, you wouldn't need to be begging for people to do that. Well, turns out this just shows us, yeah, all of it was crap. All of it was garbage. All of it was this fakeness. And what's interesting to me is I think there's a lot of correlations between what's going on right now in our modern political sphere and what happened with this show. A lot of fake excitement and a lot of fake reviews and a lot of just fake support in so many ways. I don't know. I see that there are similarities. We don't delve too much into the politics here, but I just can't help but see similarities between them. Mr. Wingster says, Odin, Star Wars has never been in a healthier place. What you be smoking in your pipe? I don't smoke any pipes, and if I did, there would be nothing in there. It would just be for the look of the pipe in the mouth. That basically be it. But yeah, oh yeah, Star Wars, in such great position, man. I tell you. Let's look at how well are those High Republic novels selling. No one's buying them. No one even knows there's such a thing as a High Republic, huh? Color me surprised. Wait, more people are probably getting the audiobook of the EU novels that are being revamped versus the brand new stories? Oh, yeah. Color me surprised. That's the one good thing. If I could say anything good about Disney Lucasfilm, it's that at least they're handling, or whoever is handling the audiobook side of things, at least they're doing a good job. Because they've been putting out the entire X-Wing series. They got Mark Thompson doing the voice work. Mark Thompson's phenomenal. The X-Wing novels are a ton of fun. And they're doing all these classic EU stories. And they're revamping them, especially the ones that never got a full-fledged version, but only had an abridged version, right? They released the entirety of the... oh my goodness, I'm blanking out on the name of it right now, actually. Oh my goodness gracious. Let me see. I got to look this up. Let me see if I can get the Outbound Flight. That was what it was. I was like, Jeru Sabayoth, no, is in it. You know, and the story of Jeru Sabayoth and that entire concept that they develop and that they initially set forth within Outbound Flight is just really, really cool, very interesting. But the only audiobook version of that book that they had out before had been a really, it was a well done abridged version, but it still was an abridged version. And then I found out that at the end of last year, I think they actually released the full unabridged version, which I am so excited to eventually be able to get into. But like, yeah, at least they're doing that. There's good things. I would say there's probably more interest, more intrigue, and just more overall numbers for things like that, right? Old EU stuff. Things that Disney has just cast aside. And you can kind of already see that happening by the fact that you not only just have to look at the numbers of how the High Republic is doing, which is just not at all. Not only do you have to look at the likes of the Acolyte, which are getting canceled after one season, after having been propped up by this artificial support, you then look and see, but what are they actually making? What are they actually spending their time on in this space? What are they actually pushing? Oh, wait, it's a lot of EU stuff. I mean, this tells you exactly what you need to know about where Star Wars currently is. Twisted Reality, what is going on, brother? Welcome back to the chat. We got Joey Horn hanging out as a member. Ding dong, the Acolyte's dead. Yes, indeed. And honestly, because the show is about space witches, ding dong, the witch is dead. Absolutely. All of that fits very well. Ryan Liu, what's up? Trying to say, how are you doing? Do you know for Alien Romulus they casted a 7'7" person to play Offspring? I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me. Because that was one of the interesting things was how, yeah, they used practical effects to portray that specific character. And I will say we will definitely be going into some spoilers for Alien Romulus, though I honestly think so much of the film has already been spoiled for so many people. And I mean, to be honest, it's not like the spoilers are that surprising. It's especially if you've seen the other franchise, if you've seen the other films in the franchise, right? If you have even just a cursory knowledge of the Aliens universe, none of the spoilers should impact you one way or the other. To be perfectly honest, it's going to be more about whether you go to see it in a theater with a very good sound system and the kind of movies that you find thrilling, that's going to ultimately decide whether you enjoy the movie or not. For me, saw it on an IMAX screen. It was a pretty good crowd as well. And I really do like thrillers a lot more than anything else. And I found the film to be quite thrilling. All right, JKBuck76, what's going on, brother? Scott McKenzie, thanks for becoming a member at the Citizen of Asgard level for 26 months in a row. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate it. Wayward Noodle, who is a member, saw Deadpool, Wolverine, had fun. Thanks for the recommendation. Glad to see Acolyte is flush. Glad you liked it, Wayward Noodle. I'm always happy to hear when people enjoy films after a recommendation because not every film is for every person. So, yeah, thank you very much for checking that out and for enjoying it. We got King Kane Rumsky hanging out over on the Green Machine. What's going on, good sir? King Rumsky says, do you think non-woke people groups are finally getting good at boycotting crap entertainment? Seems like Disney is taking a lot of hits lately. It's really hard to say, to be perfectly honest. I think that there are certain areas where you see some organization. I think that you could look at, for instance, things like the Target issue, right? The Target situation where they were trying to put forth clothing that was vastly inappropriate for young people. And I think that's really the issue that brings people together. When you start to go after kids, when you start to target the youth with a lot of this insane stuff, right? And we're not even talking, I think to call something when it deals with kids woke is honestly disingenuous because it grossly understates just how evil the things being pushed actually are. To say it's woke is, I think, honestly not even accurate to what it actually is. It's just evil. It's downright evil. That's the only way that we can describe the kind of crap that they've been trying to push onto kids. And when you do that, that's when you start to see people really come together, because it's one of the few issues where, regardless of where you might stand politically, you don't say, most people, if they have a heart and if they have a brain and if they have a soul, can look at that and say, no, this is not okay. Leave the kids alone, please. So I think that that's where you tend to see these groups organized more so than anything else. As far as the content, as far as the entertainment, I think that's also why you saw things like Lightyear fail epically. Because when that film came out, what was being pushed in the movie, what was being talked about in the movie, and also what was Disney doing at the time? A lot of it had to do with things that have an impact on kids. And parents did not want that kind of crap either being pushed in a movie or being pushed by the company that's making that movie. Now, they have been able to recover, though, right? Inside Out 2, massive hit. $1.6 billion. You can't take that away. Deadpool Wolverine, a rated R film, doing insane numbers right now. And likely to end between 1.3, 1.4 billion as of where it's tracking. So they've been taking a lot of hits, but they have had also 2 massive successful hits. And they're not done, I think, yet. I do honestly think there's a good chance for Moana to be able to get in on this party. Because I don't think the film's going to be necessarily very good, because usually when you have a show that's being adapted into a movie, because again, Moana 2 was not supposed to be Moana 2. It was supposed to be Moana the series. And they decided instead to convert it into a movie. Usually that type of conversion does not end very well, especially when you're moving it to a theatrical release and not just a straight to streaming, or at the time, back in the day, straight to DVD type release, straight to VHS release, right? For those that were raised in the 90s like myself. And so, yeah, to kind of get back to that initial question, though, again, it depends on what the issue actually is. But there is, because of the fact that it's only specific issues like that bring people together, I think there is enough differentiation between people politically across the spectrum that you usually don't get as consistent of a, quote unquote boycott, as it were. Let's see. Forever Sci-Fi. Guess Kathleen Kennedy will have to keep waiting for that win. Yeah, seriously, because it's not coming around anytime soon. That is for sure. Let's see. Master of Gaming, who is a member. Hail to you, Master of Gaming. Thank you very much for being here. And again, if you have a comment or question that you want read aloud on the channel, just put @Odin at the very beginning of your comment, @Odin. It lets me know they're trying to get my attention. And if you are a member on the YouTube channel, again, only for members of the YouTube channel, you do not have to worry about tagging if you want your comment highlighted. Though I, of course, will skip over comments where you're tagging other people, because I like to let y'all have those kinds of conversations. Anyway. Let's see. Master of Gaming, who's a member, saying, Odin, fun fact, The Exorcist is the highest grossing R-rated movie adjusted for inflation. I'll have to look into that myself, Master of Gaming. I like to do and crunch those numbers in my own way. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if that were actually the case. And I believe, what was it? Was it Beverly Hills Cop or Bad Boys? No, maybe it was Beverly Hills Cop, where someone was telling me that it was the second film in the franchise as rated R film, did very well. Maybe it was the first. And it was an insane amount of money for the time back in the 70s or 80s. I think it may have been the 80s. So maybe that one would be up there too. But yeah, that's why whenever, Deadline or these other news publications will come out and say, as much as, and again, Deadpool Wolverine is doing amazing numbers. It has beat Joker. right? If you look at those two movies, right, and you look at the tracking of where this film is versus Joker, even when you adjust for inflation, this movie is going to beat Joker if it hasn't already when adjusted, right? And so it's going to do well, and it is doing well, especially as a rated R film. But you look back and you go to films like The Passion of the Christ. All right, Passion still has a massive domestic advantage against where the movie currently is for Deadpool. You compare the end total results, right? And you're looking at, again, a vast difference there. The further you go back in time to films like Exorcist from the 70s, right? Yeah, you're talking about a massive change, not only in the rate of inflation, but also even just in ticket price sales, because both of them will tell you the same story. And that's why it really, honestly, would be a better idea, I think, if these more mainstream publications had an actual database of ticket sale estimates, so that way we could actually have some good metrics. Because to say, oh, it's the highest grossing rated R film of all time, it's like, well, you can't really say that, because is it really honestly more money than what came before from the 70s, 80s, 90s, when you're actually looking at real values of those dollars being reported from back then? And at the very least, then you would say, okay, are you saying, like, by when you say that, you are implying that more people saw this movie, and we just know that that is not actually the case. And this is coming from someone that is a fan of the film. See, Morak, what's going on? I say, divided the Star Wars audience, an 82% negative rating seems like a pretty good consensus. Yes, but remember, Morak, remember, right? First off, that's Deadline saying that, not me. But just remember, right? That was all review bombing, okay? Remember how all of the sexists and all of the ist came out from their basements for some reason, just for this show. They tend to leave shows that have a lot of other political elements to them, shows like House of Dragon. They tend to leave that show alone for some reason, right? Because they could go after that one for various reasons, if, of course, the narrative that was being portrayed was actually true, which we know it's not true, right? It's not that, oh, they decided, the ists and the phobes decided to take a night off, right? They decided to take the night off for this show. But, oh man, Acolyte, they can't let that happen. It's like, no. The show was bad, okay? And so, therefore, the show got rightfully panned. There's just no other way that you can spin that. Now, if you enjoyed the show, I can't stop you from enjoying a show. I say this all the time for films that are not nearly as divisive as a show like The Acolyte. And by divisive, I don't even mean with the audience, because the audience very clearly hates it. At the same time, we must also give the caveat, give the exception that now the audience was not very large to begin with, right? So one could potentially argue that the audience that stuck around for the entirety of the show and watched the actual show, maybe it is much more of a mixed bag. But you still can't ignore the fact that you have countless thousands of people that are, Star Wars fans in some way, in some, throughout, with some variety, who then at least chose to not watch the entirety of the show or watch the show at all. You can't ignore that fact either. King and Rumsky, trouble with math, maybe you need to take a puff. No, King and Rumsky. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you try to force my hand with that clip? Don't worry, that clip will be played tonight. Just not right now. Let's see. Prince Screen, who is a member, saying, I never thought there would be a time I would not be excited to see Harrison Ford in a movie. Talented actor, but he's getting too old for this. He is. And he's been too old, man. You go back even to that Indiana Jones film that doesn't exist. And I'm not even talking about Dial of Destiny. I'm talking about Crystal Skull. Because that one was the first one that ceased to exist, right? He was already too old for that movie even. You add Dial of Destiny and it's even worse. And now you look ahead to Captain Falcon, not looking any better. Definitely not looking any better, that's for sure. Fake Noodles, I see, forgot the initial tag, but luckily it was right below the comment. Says they canceled it, but we won't see a course correction for at least 3 to 4 years, or at least until Kathleen Kennedy is out. Yeah, the problem, though, Think Noodle, is that she's not going to leave until she wants to. And I imagine that the money is so good, and she has so much just general protection in her job, I don't think she's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to see I would say we're much more likely to see a course correction in the case of Marvel. And the reason why is because we've seen it to a certain degree. Because regardless of whether you like the film or not, Deadpool Wolverine is a huge turn in the right direction. Even if you were not a fan of it, you have to admit, in comparison to what we've had already, it's a huge turn in the right direction. However, it's all about what have you done for me lately? The next thing they have is Agatha, which looks awful. There's this clip going around from a musical song they performed at the Disney D23 Expo, okay? And at one point it features the lead actress. Was it Catherine Hahn is her name, maybe? I always forget her name. Where she's like screaming and cackling, and it's some of the worst things you've ever heard. It's nightmare fuel, and not in a good way either. So you have that coming up next in the Marvel in the Marvel universe. I guess you could say Marvel Cinematic because I guess TV is also cinematic in a certain way. But again, in the Marvel universe, you have that next. The next movie that you have isn't until February, and that is Captain Falcon, which the budget for that movie is already looking to be $340+ million. So you already have to make about $1 billion just to break even on that movie. And I'm sorry, I don't think you're going to get that kind of money for that movie. Because you think back to the major successes in the Marvel and the Marvel adjacent films, okay? And one of the best examples that I can always think about is you go back to Spider-Man No Way Home. That film was this massive hit, massive success, and it bled into the following year when you had the release of Doctor Strange. Why? Because Doctor Strange was featured heavily in Spider-Man No Way Home. You had that direct connection between those two. But what happened? That movie, Doctor Strange, sucked. It was really bad. And so what happened? Everyone showed up opening weekend. Never forget, $450 million global opening for Doctor Strange. But then it fell off like a cliff. It dropped like a rock. And it petered out and was not able to hit $1 billion. Now, of course, everyone's like, oh, but look at how much money it made. In comparison to its budget, it really didn't make that much net profit, if even that much of any. And so you have to look at it you have to first look at it from that lens, right? You have to first look at it from that understanding. And then you add to that, right? You add to that the fact that every subsequent movie saw a pretty sizable drop-off to the point where you eventually get to the Marvels and it's complete catastrophe. The difference this time around is that you have a very successful rated R film in Deadpool Wolverine that has no direct connection to any other future film. They're not really setting up for anything in this movie. There's no post-credit scene that leads you to the next movie. And so you see the trailers for Captain Falcon Winter Soldier, and you're like, okay, why should I care? It's just back to the same old Marvel. And so if people think that Deadpool is going to be the thing that brings people back to see Marvel films without any question, like at one time it once was, I got news for you. I don't think it's going to happen. Isaac, what's going on? Ruili, what's going on? Orange Chat, oh no, we're talking spoilers for Romulus. Again, I'm pretty sure at this point it's hard to even say anything is necessarily a spoiler. Orange Chat says, I will be seeing it in theaters when it hits my hometown. How does it not hit your hometown, dude? It had a global release. That's crazy, man. It's at 3,885 screens. Like that's I feel like above average for most movies. That's crazy, man. I'm so sorry that I'm so sorry that it doesn't come. That's crazy. Not even close. Not even with like a 20-minute drive. Because that's a lot of theaters, man. If it's at like 2,000, it makes a bit more sense. Because when you ever have those more limited run movies, you usually see it around 2,000, maybe 2,500, and then it becomes a lot harder to see it even in some major cities. But when you're at 3,800 screens, that's odd. That's really weird. It's weird. It's weird. Oh, and my mouse just died. Oh no, this has happened once before. And I think I'm prepared. Yes. I remember I didn't have my my plug last time, but now I do. Hello? Can you turn on, please? Or is it so dead that it can't turn on? Oh no. Oh no, this is not good. There we go. Okay. It's back, everybody. It's back. Oh man. Let's see. Absolutely Full is a great channel. Shout out to the Force of Light Entertainment ladies. Congrats to them on 40K. They're awesome. Let's see. Mr. Wingster says, Odin, quick, become a woman and start promising E-pics. You'll definitely overtake Force of Light Entertainment. Yeah, I don't do that. And guess what? Neither do they. Neither do they. That's one of the many reasons why I love them, why I think that they are wonderful ladies. And it was really cool getting to see them a few weeks back. We had a somewhat secret dinner with a couple other creators that were in the area, and it was a ton of fun. Shout out to Paul Chato as well, because he was there, and I got to actually talk to him. The only other time, it was so funny because I knew of Paul. I had seen him before because, one, we were both on the Star Wars funeral show, so shout out to Chris Gore. I got my Funeral for a Franchise t-shirt from Film Threat. And so we were both on that. But then he was also a guest on FNT. But because, especially at that point, FNT had so many people talking all the time, and it still does, I never got a chance to really talk to him. I never really got a chance to have a back and forth with him at any point. So I actually got to talk to him for most of the night, and the guy's really cool. And we had some really good conversations, and it was a lot of fun. So I can now say, even though I've been on a stream with him before, right? In the case of the Funeral for a Franchise, obviously that was meant to be for laughs and stuff, and so none of us were really talking to each other. And then on FNT, again, didn't have any chance to get a second in to really chat with him at all. It was really cool to get to talk to him. I don't know if I'd even brought that up at this point, but anyway. All right, KK and Rumsky, don't forget about Force Light Entertainment. You'll always be number one in our hearts. Oh, well, thank you. So don't worry about Force Light Entertainment. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Prince Green, my theater showed the Alien Romulus trailer before Deadpool Wolverine this weekend. It's weird, but my theater does that sometimes. Yeah, so the only thing I can think of, Prince Green, is that whoever was putting the playlist together messed up. So I mentioned this several times. It usually comes up almost every stream. I used to work at a theater, and I worked for an AMC, and towards the end of my time there, was in charge of marketing, and so I eventually got put in charge of creating the playlist. Now, the playlists are, for the most part, pre-made. So the studios or their reps, it's like the studio reps or the bookers will send you, actually, sorry, it's the corporate office, my bad. It's the AMC corporate office. They'll send you a playlist. And so the idea is that they give you the playlist. Think of it, if you've ever done editing before, you know that you need to have the actual video files to plug in order for your timeline to work, right? So if let's say you edited a video and you have like 5 or 6 extra videos, and then you just decide to delete your source files. Okay, well, on the timeline, you'll still see those boxes where it should be, but then it'll tell you error because the information's not there anymore. So you had to be careful. You had to make sure that the playlists were accurate, and there were times when the playlist could actually be messed up. And then some theaters, you actually had to like tweak a couple of things that were more unique to your specific theater. But there were also times when incorrect trailers could actually be put in. So it sounds like a mistake because, yeah, you almost never see movies that are already out have trailers. If they ever do, it's usually a mistake, either in the person that made the playlist or something got lost in translation. Let's see. Geek True 64, what's going on? Orange Chat is of course the man with the axe here on the channel, saying, "Oh, the way that Romulus plays it, Prometheus, Alien, and Romulus can be considered a Ridley Scott lore trilogy." Yeah, I think that's a very good way of putting it. Right? It's almost like this fan fiction trilogy. And in the case of Prometheus, I'll be honest, I actually enjoyed certain elements of Prometheus. I thought it handled certain elements well. The problem with Prometheus was it tried to do a bit too much. It tried to go too deep into the lore, and I don't think it landed nearly as effectively as it could have. It's a movie that I've revisited, though, because there are a lot of elements in it that I think are done well. Covenant, I'm going to be honest, I remember when I saw it in theaters, I saw it just one time. I honestly don't even, it was forgettable. I have not watched it since. I've had no desire to watch it since. It was a very forgettable movie. I want to feel like I didn't have a very positive reaction, but the very fact that I can't remember anything, I think kind of speaks to that point. So, what I can say is that Romulus, I left, enjoyed it, I enjoyed myself, had a good time, and it's a movie, honestly, I could probably watch again. Carl Jacobs, never liked Alien too much, but Alien is the best sci-fi movie I've ever seen. Well, Carl Jacobs, that just makes me upset, because Aliens is a action masterpiece. How dare you? How dare you? Really, what's up? The R over on the Green Machine. Hail to the best host on the planet. The R, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Master of Gaming, who is a member on the YouTube side, says, Odin, I think The Crow will do worse than Borderlands opening weekend. It'll definitely not do well, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't know how well or not it'll do versus a Borderlands, but anyone who's a fan of the original Crow that I've talked to has no interest in this movie at all. Now, I've always been honest about this. I watched the original Crow one time, and I did not like it. I found it to be boring, just did not intrigue me. Now, I will say this, because I know there's a lot of people that love the original, a lot, and people freak out every time I say I didn't like it. Last night, I did start to rewatch it. Now, I'm only about 10, 15 minutes in. I can't say for sure whether I'm leaning towards, oh, this is better than what I remember or not, but it definitely has a very specific style and pacing that to me comes across as not quite up to standard. And again, that's just my own perception, and I'm only about 10, 15 minutes into my second ever watching of the film. Mr. Winkster, who's a member, I still prefer Just Friends, but I do like The Proposal. Oh, yes. Proposal is a fun one. It's definitely, it's a fun rom-com. Kane Rumsky. I love you, King Kane Rumsky. From Green Machine saying, did you hear? They canceled the Acolyte. There's only one other comment I need to be said that will complete my entertainment for the evening. Let's see. Hardwick at 801 says, do you think that the issue you have with Alien Romulus could potentially be fixable with a fan edit? So the big issue visually, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We've already seen fans be able to do this. I remember when Mandalorian came out, and there was the scene at the end of season 2 where Luke Skywalker comes back, and I remember everyone was just like, it's so amazing, and I felt like I was the only one. I know I wasn't, but I felt like the only one who was like, that was awful. That was really bad. Y'all are getting all caught up because it's Luke Skywalker, but it's not. It's a really poorly rendered CG image of his face. It looks awful. And it was within, 12 to 24 hours that someone online was able to get the footage and was able to do a better deepfake version. So yeah, I yes. Do I think that specific part could be fixed? I do. It does suffer from other story issues, though, that I think are worth mentioning. That is my biggest issue with the film, though. And so yes, I do think that could be fixed with a fan edit, if it hasn't already been fixed. Because we know how fast people can work these days with things. Mr. Wingster, as a member, saying, the Alien 3 assembly cut is still worth at least one watch. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen the assembly cut. That's one where, to me, the story behind the movie sounds a lot more interesting than the movie itself. Think Noodles, the Acolyte meltdown on Twitter is hilarious. And again, it's all artificial. It's completely artificial. And that's the reason why it didn't go anywhere. That's the reason why it failed. And this could very well be one last attempt to try to uncancel it because, it happens. We think about the Snyder Cut cult. But guess what? You remember how after the fact it was revealed that there was a sizable portion of the Snyder Cut cult that were actual bot accounts? Does anyone else remember that? So, yeah. To say that there's probably a sizable portion of this Acolyte, quote-unquote, fan base trying to drive this, well, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Abomination, what's going on, brother? Hanging out over on Odyssey, saying, did you watch Alien before Alien Romulus? I did not watch them again. Obviously, I have seen Alien Aliens. I've not seen them more recently. And that might also be, Abomination, why I had a good time with it. That might actually be because there were a lot of things in there that were clear throwbacks, and I felt like they handled a lot of those throwbacks very well. I'm speaking especially to the production design, the design of the ship set, the design of the TVs, the design of the ship, like everything practical that was utilized was, one, so effectively rendered, so effectively put together. So kudos to the production design team. It was so good, in fact, that I would say that, one, if we had a production design award at the Raven Awards, I would say I think Romulus should definitely at least be nominated. But that the visual effects were honestly stunning because they really did a great job in combining the practical and the visual, combining the CG and the practical. The problem, though, of course, is I would not give it an award for visual effects alone because it has to include the really bad deepfake of that character Rook. I know it's Rook, but I like saying Rook instead. It was so bad. And I think it was Chris Gore who said it took him out of the movie, and I would have to agree. I remember them mentioning something to that effect. I watched the non-spoiler reviews of Chris Gore before, and I remember that being mentioned, and it really does take you out of it. But it's not because of the character. It's not because of who you're seeing. It's just because of how bad the effect is. You're like, oh, I don't know. That image of that Instagram reel that makes the rounds, where it's the guy who's doing that song where it's like, ooh, ooh, and then it changes to the, ooh, baby, tell me how that's worth. That's exactly the sound that comes into my mind when I think of that image. Ew, it's awful. Some of the worst CG I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot coming from me. As you all know, I'm a huge stickler for CG. Oh, it's that bad. It's that bad and even worse, in fact. Think Noodles does say Disney cannot taking all these losses. Bob Iger has to do something. What if the next Star Wars movies come out and completely flop? Has to do something about this. This is getting insane. You would think that, Think Noodles, but here's the problem, okay? Disney is a massive multi-billion-dollar corporation. One could maybe even argue upwards of maybe $1 trillion corporation, but I think multi-billion at least, right? So, yeah, massive losses in Star Wars. No doubt about that whatsoever. Losses on Disney+. Massive losses last year theatrically, over $1 billion in losses. But they still have other revenue streams. They're still making money in their theme parks, for instance. And I know that there's an argument to say that their profits are down, but that still means that there's profits. If your profits are down, that still means you're making profit, right? And you then add to that theatrically, yes, well over $1 billion lost last year, but look at what they've already made so far this year. In the case of, when you look at the numbers for Inside Out 2, and you then also look at the numbers, let me see if I can pull my chart up right now, actually, to give you a rough estimate. So just from these two movies alone, right, talking about Deadpool Wolverine and Inside Out 2, as far as net gain, net profits, they've already made $671 million in net profits. So from those two movies, they made $671 million. Alien Romulus right now at $110 million is on pace to be able to make its money back and add some profit. So between those three movies, you're looking at long term, because Inside Out 2 is still going to make a little bit more. You're going to have a lot more left still for Deadpool Wolverine. Much more to be made for Deadpool Wolverine versus Inside Out 2, since Inside Out 2 is about to be released on digital. And here's the other thing, too. When films get released on digital or get VOD releases, that does not mean necessarily that the film is dead, because I've seen films where they have a VOD release, but then their box office is having the same kind of drop-off that it had been already seeing for the last several weeks. So I think that you're still going to have very similar holds for Inside Out 2. So it's still going to add some more. But obviously a lot more left, since Deadpool Wolverine's a lot younger in its box office run. So between those three movies, I think you're going to be looking at north of 800 million in net profit, potentially. And then Moana 2, I think, is also going to be a big moneymaker for them as well. So you're going to be making over $1 billion this year if you're Disney, most likely. And again, obviously, that's just a very rough estimate. I'm not even taking into account some of their films. Keep in mind, because some people might pick up, but what about a movie like, Furiosa? Right? Was it Furiosa? No. What was the 20th Century Studios? No. It wasn't Furiosa. It was, because that's Warner Brothers. It was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, right? Because that film, $59 million loss. But I mentioned this every time I brought that movie up, that the problem, though, is that the production companies for that movie, at least the ones that were listed, were a lot of other films. A lot of other production companies outside of Disney. And Disney primarily was listed through 20th Century Studios as the distributor of the film, which means that they are not looking... Disney, in fact, might actually even be looking at profits with that, because as a distributor, there's licensing fees, and so they might actually be fine at that $59 million loss there. But then I think post-theatrical, you might actually have more of a chance of them maybe making some of that money back too, depending on where it streams. They would be very smart. And again, I know it's been out for a while now, and in fact, actually, where is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? Let me do this in real time. So you can watch it on Hulu. So not the best thing. Honestly, they should have sold it. If they were wise, if Disney was wise, they'd be selling the rights to a thing like that to a different person. Yeah, Hulu, you can get Disney Plus. So basically, it's just to themselves, and then it's on VOD. So they're going to make some money on VOD from that, for sure. I think that the VOD, will it be enough to make up $60 million? Maybe. Again, I don't have those numbers. But man, if they were able to sell the rights instead to like a Netflix, they actually could have made profit on that just directly. But again, I go back to the fact that from what I can remember, the production companies, there were several production companies listed for the film that were outside of Disney. In fact, let me see if I can. Is it even still in theaters? I wonder. I don't think it is anymore. Yeah, it's not being listed here on the weekend chart. So let me see here. Let me see. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I forgot how long ago that movie was released. May 8th, 2024. Has it been so long? Didn't even crack $400 million, at least according to thenumbers.com. Let's see. Video sales. I don't believe there's any information there yet. But let me see what they have listed. So yeah, for production, financing companies, 20th Century Studios is listed. I think it was like Wikipedia that didn't have it listed. That's the weird thing. So sometimes Wikipedia will have various production companies listed, and I don't remember them having them listed there. But 20th Century Studios obviously is a distributor. But 20th Century Studios is a production company, financing company. But then you also have Jason T. Reed Productions and Oddball Productions. So that's where my mind was going with that. Okay, yeah. So again, maybe they made money there. More than likely, they maybe lost a little bit, depending on it. Let's see, Hardwick. There's a full cast audiobook of William Gibson's unfilmed script for Alien 3, which is better than the final movie. It features Michael Biehn and Lance Henriksen. Honestly, I am not that interested in it. That really doesn't interest me, to be perfectly honest. Ruili over on Green Machine. Not to worry, Acolyte fans. Paramount is bidding for it to add to Star Trek universe, because why not? For 5 seasons, directed by Jar Jar Abrams with guest director James Gunn. Oh boy. Yeah, because everyone knows Paramount is in such great financial straits at this moment. Orange Hat says, Odin the Offspring was done with a 7'7" guy with a mocap suit, so there was some digital, but it looked better than the Ian Holm deepfake. Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it. Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously there were definitely not, it was not completely practical. I mean, because there were things moving on the back, for instance, but yeah. You look at that thing and you're like, okay, yeah, there's some CG there, but it did look better. You're right. And that's, I think, something that motion cap can bring into it. Good blending of the digital image to the physical image being shown. So that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, dude, That actually looked really interesting. I actually was a fan of the combination of how they, in this humanoid, they have part, it's part engineer, part alien, part human, like a very interesting mix of things. But yes, oh my gosh, the Ian Holm deep fake was so bad. I mean, there are YouTubers that have infinitely better effects. Infinitely better. And I'm talking about some that have it where the torso is just clearly not the person they're pretending to be, but at least the face has the right look to it. Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how bad it is, especially when everything else in it is so good. Visually, everything else in the movie is so good. That one moment is so atrociously bad. It's laughably bad. Prince Screen, who's a member, a 7'7" guy, was Shaq in Alien Romulus. Let's see. Orange Chat says here, Odin, saw the Iron Claw for the first time. I saw your review over on Criticless. Solid film. Only problems I had was omitting a brother and not logging time passing as well as they could have. Overall, great movie. Yeah, I remember them talking about the fact that they had to omit one of the brothers, and to me, I think their reasoning was pretty sound. About just, the time that they had for the movie, the story that they were trying to convey, and how much more complicated it could have made it overall. Yeah, and so I would say, just like with any biopic, there's always things left out. I don't really know of any perfect biopic, but man, yeah, Iron Claw, so solid, so solid in so many ways. But yeah, definitely valid criticisms for sure, Orange Chat. And I was actually reading that in your review, and I had forgotten about those things. Mr. Wingster, Target. Yeah, 12-year-olds should be allowed to wear G-strings. What's the big deal? Yeah, Target, when they made that decision, my goodness. Prince Green, hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. Exactly. Mr. Wingster, it's like Odin is a wizard who is pretty good at math. Okay. That, to me, I think, definitely deserves it in that specific case, because when it comes to math, everyone needs just to step aside and let it happen.
Let us see a real mathematician at work.
You got me up there, okay? I got all the math ready to go, all the equations ready to go out there. Hardwick. Did you hear about the new Amazon Prime movie Jackpot, released August 15th? Is directed by Paul Feig and stars Awkwafina, John Cena, and Simu Liu. Oh my gosh, no, it sounds awful. I hate everything about that movie. I don't even need to know what the movie's about, and I already hate it. Because Paul Feig, gosh, that dude is insufferable. And again, he's not imperfect. Sorry, he's not completely imperfect, right? He has done a couple things that were entertaining, but he was the one that did the 2016 Ghostbusters, and then really from that point just jumped off the deep end in so many ways. Awkwafina is, oh my gosh, why would I want to listen to her for however long the movie is? John Cena, look, I know there are people out there that like John Cena. John Cena is great in meme form only. He was never a great wrestler. I hate how the WWE has done this thing where it's like the greatest wrestler of all time, and it's like, just because you gave him a record number of championships doesn't mean that he is the greatest wrestler of all time. He was terrible in the ring. There's a reason why he is himself a meme. 5 moves of doom. And it always made us mad because he won every match with a fireman's carry. A glorified fireman's carry. Not even a Death Valley driver, mind you, I should say. But a glorified fireman's carry. It was awful. It was one of the reasons why I gave up on wrestling for a long time, because I was like, as long as you're pushing this nonsense. And then they tried to do the same thing with Roman Reigns, and it was bad. Now, his heel turn and the bloodline stuff, really good. Really, really good. But I think a lot of that credit has to go to Paul Heyman. That dude was bringing it during that storyline. Not to get into wrestling, but John Cena's name is brought up, and so therefore it's relevant. But Simu Liu, Awkwafina, no. Now I'm having flashbacks to the war, right? I'm having flashbacks to the Little Mermaid live action, where you had to listen to that freaking song, but the wow, where she's squawking. Oh, I hate it. No. No. Print screen. What are your thoughts on Martin Scorsese's Life of Jesus movie starring Andrew Garfield and Miles Teller? It's Scorsese, so automatically I'm going to be intrigued. When it comes to his films about Christ, has a very interesting track record. A lot of controversy around, of course, The Last Temptation of Christ, but a film I actually enjoy. You have to understand what it is. It is a biblical fiction. And as long as you understand it as such and recognize that it's more of a commentary on the fact that Christ is fully human, that I think makes it a bit more palatable as a story. The movie itself is just brilliant because it's Scorsese, but the story is where a lot of issues can come in. If you understand it correctly, though, he also did the film Silence with Andrew Garfield, which is, I think, one of the most underrated films from him. And I know that there are some that will go after that film because of the way it portrays apostasy. But to me, I think that there's so much more depth to it and really shows you the power that faith has. And it shows you also just how much torture, how much evil the missionaries to Japan had to go through. I mean, very powerful film, Silence, if you've never seen it before. So having Garfield in that already makes me happy. Miles Teller, big fan of his. So I'm already sold on the cast alone, to be honest. Scorsese is usually solid. I say that usually because The Irishman was awful on Netflix. Just awful. So bad. And then Killers of the Flower Moon was okay. I know there's some that didn't like the film. It's definitely a longer film, definitely overlong, but I actually enjoyed it. To me, it was a return to form from a technical standpoint for Scorsese. So not knowing the story that he's going to try to convey or the messaging he might try to convey, I don't feel like he tends to fall into that camp. It really depends on who's writing the screenplay. If it's going to be based off of a book or whatever it might be. I don't know. Sahil99, what's going on? Sahil99. Hello, do you remember the first movie you purchased on VHS DVD? Mine was Anger Management back in 2003, currently at about 600 Blu-rays and 10 or so 4Ks. Dang, dude. I honestly could not tell you because my family would have technically owned things before, and then maybe I adopted some of those. And then I bought a bunch on my own very early on in my life. The only thing that I collected that I can tell you for sure is movie ticket stubs, okay? Back in 2003, I would have been in 6th grade. No, scratch that. 2003, I would have been starting high school. So I've been like 9th, 10th grade. Maybe 9th grade. Wait. Yeah, 2002 was my last year of middle school, first year of 8th grade. 2003 would have been going into 9th grade year. So 9th grade. And so the oldest movie ticket stub I have that unfortunately has not stood the test of time because those are not meant to be standing the test of time. So the ink because they use the heat. I forget exactly what it's called, but it uses heat instead to put the image on there, so it doesn't really last long. Was Mean Girls, the original OG Mean Girls from 2003. That was the oldest ticket from when I started collecting ticket stubs, and I had hundreds of ticket stubs. And I got to a point, though, where I still have them. I still have them wrapped up somewhere. But more recently, I've just stopped collecting them because it's like, okay, there's no real good way to preserve these. And yeah, I was like, I'd much rather, spend more time and effort on physical media collection, backing those up, and then on my digital list on places like Critic List and stuff. Let's see. Michael Brigette says, hey, Odin, last night I watched the first episode of the HBO doc series Chimp Crazy from the same team that did Tiger King. It's such a wild episode, and there's still 3 more episodes. Ooh, same team as Tiger King. That has me interested then. Is it as crazy as Tiger King? Short, Laura. Ugh, I set an alarm and everything, and I still forgot your stream on Mondays. I'm so sorry, Laura. I'm so sorry. I know that there's a lot of people still getting used to that, for sure. But no problem at all, Laura. Thanks for being here. Harvick, or Harrison Ford may be too old to play characters like Indiana Jones, but he's not too old to act in general. He's still a good actor and is even in a good shape for his age. And I'll just say I've not seen it. I haven't seen a lot of stuff from him outside of Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones, because I think he's done has he done any big things outside of that? Maybe he has. I just haven't seen it. Abomination on Odyssey says, when a big house in California today costs more money than the entire theatrical run of the biggest movie in 1980, Empire Strikes Back, not adjusted for inflation, it should be obvious that the money isn't the same. Exactly. Steven, what's up, brother? Hope all is well. How's your back to school new class coming along? Did you show any movies yet? If not, what's the first movie you going to show them? Things are going just fine. We have 1 full week of school under our belts. We had 2 days the week before as kind of our getting started back last week, first full week. This is our second full week. We're doing great. We're in talking Plato right now. About to talk Aristotle. I like to do an intro to philosophy with them at the very beginning, prepping us for an intro to morality, which is always a fun conversation. The first movie they ever get to see is the, for full movie, it's not until we get into morality, and it's Eye in the Sky. Brilliant movie. Brilliant film. And a really great one for them to have a conversation with after, about if they were the soldier in Aaron Paul's shoes, what would they do? Steven, I really, really hope this is a joke, man. I really, really hope this is a joke, okay? Because the title of my stream on YouTube literally has that in the title. Come on. I really hope it. Mike Healy. What's up, Mike Healy? What's up, brother? Says, Odin, the Daredevil Born Again trailer, interesting. Looks like they have gone back to Netflix style. Oh, I haven't seen it. Is that just now out? Orange Hat. Dad say the theaters were bought out by the Arts Center, and they likely putting in stupid stuff that nobody wants to watch. It is delayed for a week or so. Oh, bro. Okay, that makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense. But bad form on their part. Wow. That's awful. Rob D had to say, Andor gets a season 2 and Acolyte does not. Yeah, I mean, I know that you give the thumbs up to that, 2 thumbs up to that. I will say that both for me are thumbs down. Andor was not interesting enough for me to even want to finish the show. I think I maybe got 3-4 episodes in and was like, I still just do not care about this show at all. And Acolyte, of course, being out is of course a great thing. Steven, do you think there will ever be a movie to surpass Deadpool Wolverine for top rated R movie? If so, which future movie, or if you can make up a movie that you think can, what do you think can? Okay, very, very loaded question there. So if the Passion of the Christ 2 ends up being a rated R film, I could definitely see that one doing it again, if it's of the same quality and caliber as the first Passion of Christ. Never sleep on those faith movies, man. I tell you, specifically ones that are like those authentically, in that case, an authentically Catholic story in that specific instance. There's just something about it. When you have a very talented filmmaker and actual money behind your project, it's amazing what you can accomplish. So that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, will it happen? Yes, because at some point, all records are broken at some point. Rob D, hello Odin, Andor gets season 2 and Acolyte does not. Don't double post, even if you make a mistake. It always shows up here. No reason to post again if you've made a mistake. Cthulhu, what's up? Cthulhu is a member. Just your friendly reminder, no R-rated movie will ever outgrow Rocky Horror Picture Show. Happy Monday. Okay, Cthulhu. But that's obviously a very specific case because that thing shows, every week in some markets? And I don't think they're even counting that at this point. Duncan Blackthorne, what's going on? Welcome. Prince Green, I assume my theater doesn't update their trailers. They make the playlist once and never change it. It's a local. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, a local theater, I couldn't tell you what they do for those. All right. All I can tell you is what AMC did. And, okay, that is interesting, though. Geek True 64, I was a day late to the Knoxville Comic-Con. Jay told me you were there the previous day. Hope you had a good time. Yeah, I was not able to get to the actual con. So I wouldn't have been at the con even if you had gone to it, but we did have dinner. We had dinner the night, was it Friday night? I think it was, Friday night there was dinner. So that was a lot of fun, to go to as well. And, the ice cream after was great too. We had a little group coming, a little group walking around, and it was pretty cool. So yeah, that was going. Honestly, if Chris Gore, gives more details about his meetup for Dragon Con, because that's in Atlanta. That's only about an hour and a half away, so it's about similar distance to Knoxville. That's one where I could conceivably think of. It depends on what's going on, though. Steven, do you think Disney can avoid wrongful death lawsuit because of streaming service terms? Heck no. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard them come up with. And honestly, if a judge doesn't either one, laugh in their face, or two, hit them with crazy fines for being so evil. Prince Green, the trailer for The Crow isn't good, but Take What You Want by Post Malone is a great song. Yeah, it does not look good. Does not look good at all. Kick in Rumsky. Duncan Blackthorn likes the OG Crow. Keely Chow, time to say in my Scott Steiner voice. No, Keely Chow, no. Get out of here. Mr. Wingster, I did watch that M4 book edit of the Hobbit trilogy, and it is my definitive version going forward. Thank you, Mr. Wingster. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Shout out to Hardwick. He drives me crazy sometimes, but I believe he was the one that got me onto that version, and it's a great one. And actually, I do have extra copies of that. I'll have to have a giveaway with those. Abomination. Yes, here it is. Did you hear they canceled the Sub-Saharan South African Acolyte trade? Yes, the combination has commenced. Oh, man. We're going to start to wrap things up, but don't worry. If you still have your comments here, I will gladly get going with these. All right, let's see. Carl Jacobs, Alien is most unique in its ability to escape the typical feel of conventional sci-fi. It felt authentic. No further sequels needed. That might be how you feel, but doesn't mean that Aliens 2, or in this, it doesn't mean that Aliens is not in its own right just as good, and in fact, many would argue better. It's a hotly debated topic, but even FNT's audience was split 51-49 towards Aliens, plural. It's always a fun debate, though. Orange Hat, gotta run. Got my stream in 25 minutes. Have fun, folks. Orange Hat, have a great stream, good sir. As this was about 25 minutes ago, I hope that your stream has started and that it is going swimmingly. Rob D, Ted, regarding The Crow, I would say the source material, the dark Halloween aesthetic, and the fact that Brandon Lee died is the reason why people like The Crow. I really enjoyed the movie. Yeah, part of me has always wondered, is it because of that nostalgia factor, specifically that factor of wanting to support it because of the death of Brandon Lee and the potential that he had, if that maybe clouds the judgment of some. And again, that's just a general thought. That's why I'm totally willing to watch it again. Hardwick, I meant my question about whether a fan edit could improve Alien Romulus. More about the story issues. Are some of those fixable? So again, the big issue, because that was your initial question, actually was related specifically to the big issue, which was looking at the visual effect. That can be fixed for sure. Story issues, again, fan edits can fix most things. If a fan edit can take the 3 movies of The Hobbit and make what we got, yeah, absolutely, someone could come in and recut Alien Romulus to make it better, for sure. But again, for me, the bigger issue was the visual. Keely Chow, thank you for being here. Ice Cream, Master of Gaming. Thoughts on Blink Twice and The Forge? I've not seen either and really don't have plans to see either, so I cannot say. I did just get a few I got a few movie screeners from Angel Studios, so I should be able to give thoughts soon about at least one of them. There are review embargoes on a couple, but I've got an early screener for Bonhoeffer, so that's the one I'm most psyched for, because that one actually looks really good. But I got a couple other screeners too, so I'll have to keep you up to date with what I can. Possible Bot says Abomination. I don't even see it. Oh wait, there it is. Yes, he is suspicious of Abomination. That is a fact. J.S. Pena on the YouTube side. Otis of the Acolyte canceled, huh? I'm honestly a bit surprised, but glad. Hardwick, I don't like the religious aspects of Prometheus. It was going to be even worse. They had an idea to depict Christ as having been an engineer. A few hints at this even made it into the movie. Oh, yeah. That would not have been good. Cthulhu, wait, it was worse than the young Leia CGI or Tarkin? Forget what movie that was. Yeah, I know, right? Forget what movie that was. The movie that for some reason people think is good in Rogue One. Other than a really cool Darth Vader scene that breaks a lot of things, especially continuity, and also it's just by itself clearly added in last minute to try and make something memorable of the movie because nothing else was memorable. Infinitely worse. Tarkin, to be perfectly honest, was more so bad and creepy because of the ethical question. In the case of Rook in Alien Romulus, it is just laughably bad. Laughably bad. When I say the worst, I mean the worst. Print screen. The Acolyte sounds like the name of a faux metal song from the early 2000s. Master Gaming. I think The Forge will make top 5. Top 5, are you saying in your own personal list? Is that what you're trying to say? Your own personal list of movies? Or are you trying to say you think it's going to make top 5 at the box office? Because I don't even know what The Forge is. It's from Affirm. Year out of high school, boy is challenged by a single mom, a successful businessman, to start charting a better course of life through the prayers of his mother and biblical discipleship. All right, yeah. So, yeah, I've always been very clear. I do not have high opinions of most faith-based movies. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Angel Studios has been one of the better studios, but even their movies are not all great either. It was projected to do $5.5 million by Box Office Theory. I don't know if 5.5 is going to be enough to break into the top 3, and the top 5. That's still going to be a tall order, I think. Let me look. So at 5.5 million, it would, if it had come out this weekend, it wouldn't make it into the top 6. So, maybe. Let me see what we got coming out. Let me look this up in real time. But yeah, I know you usually bring up a lot of the more obscure films, like horror and faith-based. I have no interest in either of those. Blink Twice. Let's see. When tech billionaire Slater King meets cocktail waitress Frida at fundraising gala, sparks fly. He invites her to join him and his friends on a dream vacation with private islands, paradise, wild nights blend in, but starts questioning reality. Horror film. Okay. I figured as much. But Channing Tatum. Yeah. Something tells me The Crow will, I don't know. That's a tough weekend, dude. That's a really tough weekend because none of those films look any good. Blink Twice, The Crow, and The Forge. I'm going to be honest. I have no interest in any of them. Blink Twice wasn't getting any traction whatsoever. It's an Amazon release. Those films have not had good releases typically. The Crow was projected at 6 million. The Forge was at 5.5. Yeah, it's not a good weekend at the box office as far as new releases. I think they're going to be vastly outdone by the films that are already out in release. That's not good. Mike Healy, how much will Ryan Reynolds cut from Deadpool with it being Fox property? Oh, like his actual cut of the movie? Are you trying to say like his financial cut? I don't know. Hardwick, I just looked up to make sure, and apparently the idea wasn't to portray him as an engineer exactly, but as a human abducted by the engineers and trained to be their emissary on Earth. Yeah, basically to try to question the divinity of Christ, which is something that Hollywood typically does. Key truth, Planet of the Apes, among several other movies recently coming to streaming before physical media, is pretty dumb. That I especially agree with. Physical media is the way. Mr. Wingster, Fag is hit and miss for me, starting with Bridesmaids. I did not like Bridesmaids. Ugh. People think that movie's funny still. And I'm like, no. It was just disgusting. There's actually, okay, Mr. Wingster, there is one funny character in that movie, and it's Melissa McCarthy. The entire thing with the dogs is the funniest bit, because I love dogs. Print Screen is a member. Not an Aquafina fan, but I like Lou and Cena. You like Simu Lou? Ugh. Rob D. We need to have an official Geeks and Gamers wrestling match live. Gary, Jeremy, and Ryan versus Odin, Drunk, and Az. Bro, we'd win that fight. Just saying, all right? We would destroy in that fight. Cthulhu. I would be immensely amused with a carpenter architect Jesus Christ dealing with OSHA, local town ordinances, building industry unions. No. All right, one thing I did like about the Jackpot trailer is that it satirizes how messed up California's legal system and sense of morality are. Interesting. Kate Rumsky, were you hot for Lindsay Lohan? I wouldn't put it in those words. I not particularly. If anything, I would have been more attracted to Rachel McAdams. Tina Guzman, what's up? Print screen. A Life of Jesus based off of the books of the same name by Shusaku Endo. He was a Japanese Catholic author who also wrote the book Silence was based upon. Ooh, okay. Color me interested then. Harwick, what did you think of Harrison Ford in 1923? That was recent. He's also in the new television series Shrinking. Yeah, he was old in 1923. Now, his character was old in the show, and so it worked, but you could still kind of tell. Also, it didn't help that I did not like the direction that 1923 went in. Abomination, Acolyte deserves a season 2. All the memes and disproves videos are golden. Let's save his mind, though, right? Carl Jacobs, Rocky Horror is just awful. Who actually thought to make that movie? Music is okay. It's just, and that's the reason why it's all about the experience of going. It's just like The Room for me. Right, I know that Rocky Horror is long there before The Room, but it's like The Room. Room is an awful movie too, but man, oh man, is that fun going to like a midnight showing of. Master Gaming. I saw Deadpool, Wolverine, Inside Out 2 in theaters, and both are great movies. Okay. Soul Assassin. Only Odin should play Tom Bombadil. Prince Green. Did you hear they canceled Land of Bad? I did not, because I've actually not seen Land of Bad. I heard some good things, I thought. Right? I heard some things about it. Mr. Wingster, don't forget the Polish Slavic slaves. Hardwick, if you plan on burning new copies of M4 Book Edit for giveaways, do you want to use M4's new updated version from this year? Nah. The one I have is fine. Kane Rumsky, Alien or Aliens, Terminator 2. That is easy for me. Aliens, T2. But again, they're both very different movies. Alien is a horror film. Terminator is also much more of a horror thriller in certain respects. Aliens and Terminator 2 are full-on action. I love both of those movies. Soul Assassin, have you seen that fan anime Alien show? It's called Alien Monday, and it's pretty good. I have not, actually. Abomination, I kind of forgot there even was a Vader scene. I know, right? Mr. Forever Sci-Fi's member. I really enjoy the original Crow, but it's a fall nighttime movie for me. It just seems like the right time to watch it. Yeah. Prince Green. Attracted to Rachel McAdams. I can definitely relate. But I'll be honest, like, the time traveler's wife is more so where I would have been at versus the Mean Girls, if that makes sense. Some of you might know what I'm saying. But anyway, that is it for the chat. Man, y'all have been rocking and rolling tonight. Great conversation, great chat. We talked about a lot of things tonight. So yeah, Alien Romulus, pretty solid movie. I would recommend it. I think there's a lot of hate out there for it for sure. But I will say this, if you have any doubts in your mind about the film, I would actually say go over to Critic List. I talk about them a lot, but really, this to me is the best place for you to go to get all sides. Right now, 45 votes. And again, this is a much smaller platform, and these are of mostly movie buffs. So to me, I think the quality of these 45 reviews is so much higher than anything you can get from almost any other site. Because the chance of bots is just not really existent at this point. Because again, it's a much lower volume site. But of these 45 reviews, it's at a 74% rad score. That's a very solid rad score. But it's not all sunshine and roses, right? I gave it a 70% rad score. I thought it was a solid movie. It's not perfect. You have some that give it very high scores. I would not agree giving it that high of a score that many people are giving it. You do also have people giving it decent scores. You actually even have a few giving it the bogus score. I think that's ridiculous to say that it's bogus, but you do have them there nonetheless. But that's what's great. You get a variety. And many of the people, as I mentioned, because these are film fans, don't just give you a score, they give you a full review, and they explain to you their methodology of why they think the way they do. So if you are honestly unsure of any of these things, I would say go check out the reviews there, and you can make up your own mind. If you ask me, I'm going to be honest and say, I think the movie's solid, and I think most people will probably end up enjoying it. Box office seems to be indicating that. General reviews seem to be indicating that as well. And again, Critic list is a very good metric for really getting the general sentiment. It's a very, I guess you could say, normie audience, but it's a very intelligent normie audience in different ways. So that's why I always recommend them in general. Also just a fun site to play around with as well. So yeah, I'd recommend that. Also, Acolyte officially canceled. Talked about that at the very beginning of the stream. We had that breaking, of course, a little bit earlier before the stream officially started. But yes, Acolyte officially canceled. Amazing. Just you can't make this stuff up, folks. You really can't. And let's get our last comments. We got Cthulhu, have a good night. Yes, have a good night. Duncan, Blackthorn, have a good night. Prince Screen, have a good night. Mr. Wingster, we did some stuff. Talked about some things. Absolutely, we did. Soul Assassin, thanks for being here. And Gatekeeper coming in, dropping a $10 super chat saying thank you for your donation. Sorry, that was my bot saying thank you for your donation. I'm going to say thank you for your donation too, Gatekeeper. No message attached. Gatekeeper, thank you very much, good sir, for very generous donation there and for being awesome. And that's for everyone. Please make sure y'all smash that like button. Live the fire button over and honestly smash the rumble button as well, wherever you're watching. And yeah, be on the lookout for more stuff. We'll do a box office preview for this weekend. See just how much or how little The Crow and those other films are going to make, where we'll likely see Deadpool Wolverine in the discussion up against the second weekend of Romulus, which I think will probably hold pretty strong. And, of course, Friday Night Tights this Friday and Salty Saturday stream this Saturday in those respective platforms. Check out the schedule of the live streams over on my website, ombreviews.com, where you can find a bunch of other stuff there, too, including box office charting, etc. And that's going to be it for me because I'm tired and I need something sweet. Anyway, you guys are amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, a blessed Monday. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members here during the month of August, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribe Star people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people, have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed August, and as always, God bless.